The United States capital, Washington, D.C., is putting the finishing touches to its preparations ahead of the hosting of the inauguration of U.S. President-elect Donald Trump as the 47th president to hold that office. Officials expect nearly 250,000 ticketed guests to descend on the city to witness the Trump and Vice President-elect J.D. Vance take their oath of office on the same day the nation marks the Martin Luther King Jr. federal holiday in the U.S. The nation's capital is readying itself for Donald Trump's triumphant return after winning last November's elections, a spectacle that plays itself out on the steps of the U.S. Capitol, the same place stormed by Trump supporters after he refused to concede his election loss 4 years ago. And for more on this, we now cross live to SABC News correspondent Nick Harper. Nick, thank you so much for being with us. The last time this took place, it turned into a spectacle of Trump supporters storming the U.S. Capitol. What is the state of readiness, particularly when it comes to the securitization of Washington, D.C.?
Yeah, a very different story, Oliver, 4 years on. 4 years ago, on January the 6th, 2021, there was the storming of the Capitol by Donald Trump supporters. And then just a few weeks later, on the 20th of January, 2021, we saw Joe Biden take the oath of office. And during his inaugural address, he spoke about a time of hope, of renewal, and he spoke about that recent threat to democracy from Donald Trump supporters. In the years since then, of course, we have seen many of them, hundreds, going through the US courts and getting prosecuted for their actions on that day. However, we do know for this year that there is an increased police presence. There is no suggestion at this stage from any authorities that there is a threat to Donald Trump's inauguration, but we will have about 25,000 police officers out on the streets. Also, the National Guard, the Army, standing by. There'll be a no-fly zone over downtown DC, and there's about 50 kilometers of security barriers that have been erected around much of the Capitol. But preparations have been upended slightly in the course of the last 48 hours, because on Friday the decision was taken to move all the proceedings indoors. The reason? There are going to be some dangerously low temperatures on Monday morning, and the worry was that with hundreds of thousands of people outside, including elderly politicians, former presidents, there could be a risk of hypothermia. So instead we'll see Donald Trump and J.D. Vance taking their oath of office inside the Capitol's rotunda. It's only the third time in history that it has seen that swearing-in ceremony taking place indoors. Donald Trump will also make his inaugural address inside as well. So certainly a big change for security. The Capitol is much more secure than that outside location, but still the Secret Service and the police working behind the scenes because of those change of plans.
Yeah. Do you have a sense of the dignitaries that will be in attendance, particularly when it comes to former presidents, and whether or not they've confirmed their attendance of the swearing-in ceremony?
We are expecting all of the living former presidents to take part in this inauguration. Remember, Jimmy Carter, the Democratic one-term president, died in just the last few weeks. He will not obviously be in attendance, but we will see Barack Obama. We will also see President Bush, Bill Clinton, and Joe Biden will be taking part as he leaves office as well. And on top of that, we are expecting world leaders as well. It's not normal for world leaders to be invited to inauguration proceedings, but Donald Trump put out an invite to several right-leaning politicians, including Argentina's President Javier Milei. He'll be there, as will Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. And on top of that, the Vice President of China says that he will also be attending. And don't forget, there'll be a whole raft of other billionaires. Tech CEOs will be taking part in this, including the head of TikTok, because in the last 24 hours here in the US, TikTok has gone dark, but Donald Trump is promising to do a deal to circumvent that ban that has just come into effect in the United States. So plenty of dignitaries, but also plenty of tech CEOs. The tech world, of course, is an industry that Donald Trump has very much been wooing in recent months, many of them giving to his presidential campaign when he was running for election.
Given those changes to the proceedings due to the weather alert, is the president expected to do the ceremonial parade down 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue that typically happens after the swearing-in ceremony, where along the streets of Pennsylvania Avenue, the adjacent streets, he gets to interact and wave to his supporters along the barricades? Will that still take place?
That's right. Normally it's an opportunity for him to interact with the supporters. A nightmare for the Secret Service as the newly sworn-in president goes over to the security barriers to greet well-wishers. Unfortunately, all of that is nixed. It will not be taking place. The parade has been cancelled. So no opportunity for Donald Trump for a second time to walk from the Capitol to the White House along Pennsylvania Avenue. Instead, the parade will also be taking place indoors. It's not really clear how it will take place, what it will look like, but it will be taking place inside a sports arena. Donald Trump says that he will make an appearance, potentially to speak, but the hundreds of people who were taking part in that parade will now be moved indoors. All of that again because of that cold weather.
Yeah, Nick, thank you so much for that. Really do appreciate it. Tomorrow, of course, that will be broadcasted live on various platforms across the world, as well as on social media, except, however, TikTok.